Bonsoir et bienvenue à Montréal et le cinquième tour du championnat F4 de RTA, émissé en direct et en exclusivité avec nous ici sur Country TV. In English, welcome and good evening to Montreal and the fifth tour of fifth round, should I say, of the F4 Championship, the RTA F4 Championship, live and direct, of course, here with us on Gantry TV. And the fact that I'm bilingual, or at least for the intro, gives you an indication as to where we are in the world. We are at the halfway stage of the championship now. And we're starting to see a championship battle emerge after a topsy-turvy outing at Road America south of the border last week. There was some outstanding battling amongst all the championship frontrunners for 2.5 races, but in the feature, it all went wrong at the hairpin. Some of the favourites saw their title credentials take a massive hit. In the end, Jason Smith extended his championship lead by just 1 point, now 2 ahead of Ronan Doherty. But another good week for Rory O'Shea and Conor Melia see them both within touching distance of the leaders. Four-way championship battle begins to shape. So once again, we continue our march across the world. And this time, the second stop on our first trip to North America as we head across the apparently fentanyl-strewn border of the US and Canada, according to Mr. Trump, and to the gorgeous city of Montreal, or Montreal in French, in the French-speaking province of Quebec. This is a city famed for the largest jazz festival in the world, the incredible loaded tips dish of poutine, and the circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. 4.361 kilometers, 14 turns, a race lap record of 113.0 set by Valtteri Bottas back in 2019. And a really iconic track with this hairpin down the end as you go down towards the Casino Straight and into the world famous Wall of Champions, that S section. Finish off a lap here at the Grand Prix circuit. Bit of an interesting circuit, very twisty in the opening half, and then the second half is all about speed. So we will expect to see both technical ability and indeed toe very much feature in this race. So good evening once again from the fantastic city of Montreal, with Ronan Hederman in the background working hard, and I'm as ever joined by Evan Dalton. And with track temperatures, as you can see, also low, Evan. It's only 27 degrees on track with a 20-degree air temperature, despite the blazing sunshine we have here at Montreal. Keeping the tyres warm will be one of the keys to tonight's round.
Hi Kevin, hello everybody, pleasure to be back as always. Yes, keeping the tyres warm has kind of been a talking point for all but last week in this F4 championship. We saw that was the biggest talking point leaving Donington was the cool track temperatures and the problems with the tyres. So it'll be something similar here tonight, but we don't have the rain. So the drivers will be delighted with that one. It's going to be sunny, it's going to be nice and dry, but you got to keep your tyres nice and toasty if you want to try and stay on the asphalt.
Yeah, and we head back to the live action here, and as you can see, we're well into the practice session now. We, of course, have a 15-minute qualifying session that will kick off this evening's turn of events. If you're not familiar with the race format here on RTA, we're going to give it to you right now in a second. So we start with the qualifying, then a 10-minute race with the grid set by qualifying, 15 minutes then in race 2 with the grid set by race 1. And for the feature race, the 20-minute feature race, the reverse 8 from race 2. So 1 to 8 goes 8 to 1 as we continue, and drive-throughs are at 15x, disqualifications at 20x. Hopefully neither of those apply in this track in Montreal this evening. But it was, of course, Evan, in the feature race last week where we saw most of the action, and a great example of how this 3-race format makes a massive impact on the championship.
Yeah, I think it was Ronan Doherty who was speaking to us, saying how important that race 3 is. It really makes or breaks the championship. And then, of course, he was one of the ones involved in that incident. We saw a crash down at Road America's turn number, either 4 or 5, between himself and his two teammates, Sean and Dylan McClements. And that really was the controversial talking point leaving Wisconsin. And it leads us nicely here to Montreal. Jason Smith was the dominant force. And once again, but that gap at the top, Kevin, despite how maybe poor Ronan's season has gone, is not that big.
No, it's not, especially given the disaster that Ronan had in the last race. We haven't included drop rounds, of course, yet, so that will come into effect as well. So, yeah, definitely not a long way away. It only takes one bad race from Jason for Ronan to get right back in there. And I would say both Rory and Conor Melia also in with the shout. Maybe a little bit too much for Sean McClements down to try and bridge that gap, I would say, at this stage.
Yeah, might be a little too much for Sean, but he actually is the Team DDR driver on form, winning 2 races so far this season. The only Team DDR driver to actually win a race this season, which seems really weird to say. All three of them stood on the podium. It felt like every race back in the Formula V's haven't stood on the podium together at all this season, but the gap is just under 100 points to Jason Smith, and with not a lot of time left, might be a little bit difficult to catch. But Brandon McCaughton there in sixth as well, having a bit of an up and down season for his standards. It's certainly not as consistent as the LMP2s were, potentially not due to any fault of his own. Jason Cooper then in seventh, ahead of Dylan McClements in eighth, and Peter McCann. And Sergey Grabin has kind of come out of nowhere, 10th position in the championship, very much under the radar, I think, Kevin.
Yeah, great to see Sergey back in the top 10. Of course, raced for quite a long time in this championship over its various guises. Of course, not really used to open wheelers. He says he's kind of taking a punt return to the F4 championship. He's more into the kind of analog stuff, maybe the older sort of retro stuff, but he's certainly finding his feet here in this championship thus far.
Yeah, he is. He's helped us out a few times this season as well. But Sergey Grabin, getting up to pace, like we were discussing last week, that the drivers are kind of all used to the cars now. Sergey maybe had a little bit more of a learning curve to overcome, but he seems to have overcome that. And the sort of disgustingly coloured lime and purple car has stood out from time to time this season, and he is now into the top 10 in the championship. Another name who's kind of gone under the radar, I think, is Dara Halley. His pace has been very impressive, was very quick in the pre-race practice that you just saw a few moments ago, and could be a name to keep an eye out for tonight. But qualifying underway now, this is not where points are scored, but whoever sort of qualifies near the top, we usually see battling for the race 1 and race 2 win.
Yeah, I mean, it sets up your evening, this qualifying, because obviously that drags you in towards race 1, and if you can keep things there, you're more likely to stay out of trouble as you go onward. So a bad qualifying here can make things very difficult. As we have a look at our fourth place in the championship, should I say, thus far, Conor Melia, he's going to take us around the lap here of this track here in Montreal, the famous Gilles Villeneuve track. And it starts off with the Ayrton Virage Senna, or Senna's Corner in French, in English, should I say. As we head down now towards these T3, T4, of course, this is famously where Sebastian Vettel ran a tight line and then swapped the boards for P1 and P2 at the end. Bit of an interesting track here. This T6, should I say, this left-hander kind of comes back in on itself. It's later apex than you think as you make your way down the straight. And this first section, or this first two sections, are really just a series of S-bends intersposed by sort of very, very wide radius corners. So plenty of time to pick up speed as we head now down towards T8 across to T9. And now you come around the corner here as you head down towards this hairpin. Of course, very famously, Robert Kubica had a very unfortunate incident with a piece of somebody else's suspension going into his helmet in the rundown to that hairpin. And now it's all about speed coming out of T10. It's really about how good an exit you can get. T11 and T12 don't really count as corners. Technically, the one that we just saw past there was T12 as we head down the Casino Straight and down towards this very tricky chicane of T13 and in T14, the Wall of Champions. The pit entry right in front of you here. The big sausage curves left, which both are being massively cut by these F4 cars. I'm kind of surprised to see that as he manages to avoid brushing against the Wall of Champions and indeed crosses the line for a lap. 4.361 kilometers, 2.7, just over a touch of 2.7 miles here in Canada. And yeah, a really sort of an iconic F1 track, and a track that's really well made for open wheelers.
Yeah, it's an open wheel circuit. I think they do race Porsche Carrera Cup here, but it is an open wheel circuit historically, and it's only really ever held Formula One and the other big American sort of series. That final hairpin as well. It's important to not celebrate too early there, folks. I think Nigel Mansell once went the very long way around that, tried to celebrate too early for winning the race, and then his car broke down on the last lap. So don't do that if you are racing and watching. We're now, and is this a new camera? We're on board with Jason Smith heading through the final chicane down towards turn number 1. It's currently Rory O'Shea, the pace setter, who Didn't seem as on the pace in Road America as he had in the opening rounds of the season, but a 137 flat is not something to argue about. He leads Smith in qualifying. Our driver of the day from last week, Jason Cooper, is in third, and then Dermot Toomey is currently in fourth. But I am noticing we're still missing a good few laps on the board.
Yeah, we're still only into the very early stages. Of course, 15 minutes here, but it isn't a solo qualifying as you would see in a lot of other series and indeed special events. These guys do have to jostle a little bit around position as that's Diarmuid Toomey taking the Tokyo Drift line, I think it's fair to say, through that series of S-Bends. But you mentioned Jason Cooper absolutely flying it last week. He won a driver of the day almost single-handedly based on his feature race results. Started way down the pack and managed to make his way all the way back up to third position, which is no mean feat. I know he got a bit of a help with some of the accidents that happened, but it's been a sort of a disappointing start to the season for him, Evan. And now is a really good chance, I suppose. Last week shows Jason that he's still very much in and up with the pace. He just needs to try and improve on that consistency.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a disappointing start to the season because when he left RTA for a brief break, he left as a championship challenger in the Formula Ford 1600 championship, which admittedly would be a car he's more comfortable with than these F4s, but he would have liked to return as a championship challenger and hasn't been there, unfortunately, this season. But a great performance in Heat 3 last week, coming from back to front in 20 minutes. That'll be a real confidence booster for him and hopefully for his teammates as well. And he'll be looking to build upon that and maybe pick up a good result tonight in Montreal. It's the other Jason, though, who just goes quickest of the session, 1:36.9. It's very, very close at the top of this order, though.
Yeah, as you'd expect, really. It's been very close between the top runners in qualifying all throughout this series, and indeed right throughout the different sort of series, as that's a spin there for Dara Halley, the current P4, so that will knock his lap out as we go back to Sean McClemens, who's just set a fastest time there with a 1:36, almost 9 flat, almost. It's as good as for Sean McClemens, and maybe good enough to see him start on the front of the grid as the times are starting to come down again, Evan, as the tires warm up, as we said, and the fuel begins to burn away. But we had such close racing in the last race in Road America. Definitely one of my favorite rounds that I've ever commentated on, I have to say. I'm sure you'll agree with me. Just end to end racing from beginning to end. Very difficult to try and replicate it, though, around this course. Tighter, the walls are much closer, and much less room for error around this track.
That is, yes, and that is because of the walls that are quite close. And usually, when we have a wall here in RTA, the drivers quite like to hit them. We don't race around many street circuits. This would be classified as a street circuit to some, and obviously, room for error is very, very slim. There, as you can see, Rory O'Shea, I thought he was going to give us a prime example of it, but held it nicely. I am just as surprised as you, Kevin, as how much of that curve they're using through that final chicane. The cars are bouncing across it. But somehow they seem okay. Sean McClemens currently quickest. He, of course, took pole position last week in Road America. I think it would be the first time ever that he would take back-to-back pole positions if it would stay as it is.
Yeah, and it would give a sense that Sean is very much, 100 points off the championship lead. It's going to take a minor miracle given how consistent these guys are. You can see, speaking of wall taps, just have a look at the damage that's been done thus far to the outside wall of that. Of course, even a little touch against the wall here in iRacing gives you a 0x, and a 0x null and voids your lap. So you have to be very, very careful around here. As Sean goes 2:01 last lap, but I think he was kind of pulling out of that, to be honest. But yeah, it does make it very difficult, and there are some really good opportunities now as we head into the second half of the season for some of these guys to push on a little bit. And for Sean, he'll really need to try and pull in these consistent performances, because when you consider drop rounds at the end, he mightn't be as far off as the standings currently suggest.
Yeah, we have the drop round to come in, and of course Sean is always one that usually races every race in the season, so his drop round can kind of cost him at times, but thankfully Jason and Ronan have also raced every race this season, which is unfamiliar. I don't want to say unfamiliar, I don't want to be too harsh, but they have missed rounds here or there and got the 0 drop round, which is quite beneficial. We saw Peter McCann jump up to 6th in his first lap. Ronan Doherty hasn't actually set a lap yet, so he needs to get a time on the board pretty much ASAP as Jason Smith goes quickest of the bunch so far. Seems to be a Smith-McClements pole position shootout. The other McClements, Dylan, is currently down in 15th, so very much struggling in this qualifying session. He's almost 2 seconds off the pace.
Yeah, almost 2 seconds off, which is quite a long way for Dylan, and it's been a disappointing season for him, given he's coming into the season as reigning champion, and he would hope that he would be strong in the karts. So obviously, the saloons isn't something that Dylan is currently targeting in his fledgling career. So the open wheel stuff is where his focus will be, and he'll be a little bit disappointed to be
That's better.
this far off the pace. But yeah, it's a little bit better there from him. 137.1, putting him back in the top four, as that is Brian McCarthy going for a spin right in front of us. And now the Team DDR guys are starting to tie up, and you start to see that toe taking effect. And once again, Sean McClement's helping out his brother, despite the fact that he's the front runner in the championship. He's been very good. He's a very good older brother, isn't he?
He loves
Sean?
him secretly.
Yeah,
he does love him.
I
He'll
know
tell
he
you
doesn't.
he doesn't, but he does.
Which is great to see. And of course, we have Ronan Doherty. Speaking of Team DDR lads, he's a name that's missing from the leaderboard at the moment. Not quite sure why he hasn't set a time yet, but clock is beginning to tick now for the 29 car.
It is. I think this is probably his best attempt so far. Just looking at the sectors, he's they're still all valid, I think, on my timing screen, as Jason Smith not able to improve, but did go for a personal best in that middle sector. Theo Lestrange, personal best in all his times as well, as Ronan is definitely struggling, it seems, in this qualifying. I'm not sure what the weave was for there, but Sergei Grabun decided to copy him behind. I'm not sure if that's just he's trying to do what a previous RTA champion has done, but Ronan seems to be pulling out a line. Let's see as he comes across the line then, is this going to be a valid lap? As Dylan McClements has just gone purple in the middle sector. No, so that's no good for Ronan Doherty either. That would have actually been enough for pole position, I think.
Has Ronan started streaming, and is he doing a last first challenge or something? I'm not entirely sure why he weaved into the grass there. Not entirely sure. It's a bit of an unusual one.
Ronan Doherty's roasty nation.
Yeah. Well, at least the team at least I know where the Team DDR lads live now. So if I ever want to roast them in person, I won't find myself in the middle of Donegal. Speaking of Donegal, thank you very much to Jordan Kelly, who once again decides to join us in the comment section instead of on track. We hope to see him back at some point. Jordan says Ronan hasn't done any practice at all, which may, I suppose, explain it a little bit. But like, Ronan has so much natural talent that even without practice, you'd expect him to be able to set a valid lap. There's still time yet for him. So this is the one really for Ronan Doherty, as Brandon gives us an example of why we were so surprised those drivers are cutting the curb so much. Up on two wheels going into the Wall of Champions. That would definitely be a brown trouser moment in real life, and spins around. And unfortunately, the 69 will probably not set another lap time now in the rest of the session. So 7th would be the best that Brandon will get going into this evening's races. I just want to mention as well, before we get the chance, here's Ronan Doherty. Actually, I'm going to come to just after Ronan finishes his lap. He gets over one curb. It doesn't go cuts too much. Really nicely, just about manages to avoid the wall and crosses the line. And Ronan Doherty still doesn't set a lap. Another invalid lap.
Gonna be that. He's going to start at the back.
The answer man, and that is the story of qualifying thus far. Evan, I'm going to come back to what I'm going to say in a second, but very surprising to see Ronan Doherty at the back of the grid.
It is very surprising, as his two cousins are currently first and second, locking out the front row. We questioned Dylan McClements' pace, and well, he's on pole by almost a tenth of a second. So that's the story of Dylan McClements, as he's just actually spun around and hit the wall, but wasn't going to get another lap in anyways. But it is looking like it's going to be a Team DDR front row without the man that the team is pretty much named after. Team DDR, just actually, I don't think we've mentioned it this season. It's Damien Doherty Racing, which is Ronan's dad. And then, of course, Sean and Dylan are Ronan's cousins, so you can do the maths there. But Ronan starting at the back of the grid, very disappointing. No lap from Miles Ragg either, but I'm not sure he actually went out on track. But yeah, that's utterly disappointing for the man in championship contention.
Yeah. And speaking of racing fathers, we couldn't let this broadcast go on, and I know we'll mention it as well at the end of the stream. But just very sad news we've received recently of the passing of Niall Taff, TJ Taff's father. Um, Very popular man in the paddock, and a very untimely passing for not for Niall, and indeed for all the Taft family. So obviously our thoughts at Gantry TV, and indeed I'm sure I can say for everyone in RTA are with them. Um, we are no strangers to loss, unfortunately, in this RTA championship, and I suppose just all of us, all of our thoughts, and I know you'll echo this, Evan, are with the Taft family, because it's such a difficult time, to always very difficult to lose a parent, but especially I suppose when it's such an untimely and sudden. So just of all of us here at Country TV, our thoughts are with the Taft family, and indeed with anyone who knew Niall, and may he rest in peace.
Yeah, our thoughts very much with Lorraine, with TJ, with Leah, and of course all in the karting world who were very fond of Niall. He was a prominent figure in the paddock, and there was a lot of touching tributes on social media during the weekend as well. So TJ and family, if you are watching, you're very much in our thoughts here in RTA. And Niall, of course, loved his motorsport, so we're going to hope for a great race tonight in his honour. And that will see Dylan McClement starting on pole position with Sean in second. Then it is Jason Smith, Rory O'Shea, Dara Halley, Jason Cooper, Brandon McCaughton, Fiona Lestrange. Then it is Peter McCann and Conor Melia who round out the top 10. We have 5 red lights on here in Montreal as we go racing in Canada. Brilliant start from Dylan McClements, immediately covering off his brother in towards the first corner. Rory O'Shea not able to get alongside Jason Smith. It's side by side between Dara Halley and Jason Cooper in the background, however, as they head through the Virage Senna, and Halley has actually been dumped off into the outside, and I think Brandon McCaughton and Theo Lestrange both to get past. Theo just ahead of Brandon McCaughton, you can see in towards the right-hander. Brilliant race start though from the two McClemenses at the front, already building a little bit of a gap over the championship leader.
Yeah, we might get a chance to go back and look at that race start, because I have my suspicions that Sean may have moved before the lights went out, but
no.
I'm not entirely sure if that's the case. So we might be able to go back and have a look at that. But a very clean start from everybody up and down the grid, and particularly look, this man Theo Lestrange has been a really great addition to the grid. I think it's fair to say, Theo, the young karter. We've had a couple of young karters get involved here in RTA this season, and Theo's been exceptionally competitive. So, that's Kevin Joyce going for a move on Luke Cooper there. I think he got held up slightly by Dermot Toomey, is it? There's a three-way battle anyway as we go in towards the hairpin, and Cooper's going to try and fend off a 3 wide going into the hairpin. Luke Cooper goes late. Finlay Melvin involved in it, and just about all three of them surviving, ducking and diving as they head into the hairpin. But back to Sean McClements. He's been down to 3rd place now. He's been overtaken by Jason Smith, our championship leader, and indeed by Rory O'Shea. And will we see? Yes, he's going into pits. So my suspicions were correct. Unfortunately for Sean, he didn't pull away from the start, but I think he just dropped the clutch too early. The car rolled off its starting box as a massive crash in the background. That's involving Finlay Melvin. That's involving Kevin Joyce as well, I think, and Simon Hutchings. Let's go back and have a look at that.
Yeah, that's airborne, very much so in the background. Sean McClements turns to his old bad habits. We have an airplane crash here at the start. Let's have a look at this one. So that is Finlay Melvin and Kevin Joyce. You can see side by side McLaren versus Stewart Grand Prix into the chicane. Around goes Kevin. Finlay collects into him. Simon went on his own. Who went up in the air then? I would suspect it was Finlay. As you can see them bouncing over the curb. Wow, that's a freakish collision. And then obviously just off camera shot there, Finlay Melvin would have bounced into the air. So after a very good overtake by Finlay Melvin in towards the hairpin, it is a poor start for those two, and they're down the order and presumably out of this one.
Yeah, it's been a big change already on the opening lap with Sean McClements' mistake, and then that big accident involving those three, and that was coming, as you sense, they were going 3 wide into the turn. Speaking of 3 wide, that is the number 18 car, Sean McClements, again just pulling out of that battle, and Ronan Doherty already up to 15th place. He is up 9 places from the race start, but not the biggest mover thus far. That title goes to Miles Ragg in the 21 car. He's now up 12 places, having just overtaken Luke Cooper. and up to P11. So a lot of big movers. Up the front, we have Brandon McGahan, who's gone up to 4th place, up 3 places from 7th. Dara Halley's down 1, as we saw that instant earlier on. But Dylan McClements staying in the lead. And it's a spin. That is Dara. That is Dara Halley spinning at the Wall of Champions in the 802 car. And that's his race, unfortunately, cooked in this 10-minute race. As Peter McCann now jumps into 7th position. Lots of instant here, Evan, in these opening exchanges.
Yeah, he would is usually our boring one, the one where we just get settled in. What a hectic start we've had here. Let's have another look. The Gantry TV replay. This is the Dara Halley incident, so you can see Dara just there in the purple and orange. That is Theo Lestrange, who's looking for a move down the inside. You can see a lot of closing speed for Dara. Just got it all out of shape through the chicane. Went on his own. Oh, brilliant collision avoidance from Conor Melia. That is stuff of a champion right there to just about get around the outside of Dara Halley. Thankfully, no other cars involved. It wasn't similar to what we saw in the previous lap. Just an untimely error for Dara.
Yeah, I think Dara got slightly spooked by Luke Cooper going so slowly into the corner. I think Luke maybe braked a little bit early, and then Dara had to check up and just kind of lost his balance, really. It's like the best way I can explain it is it's almost like when you're walking along the street and somebody stops abruptly in front of you and you have to stop so quickly, but your momentum keeps going. So you're kind of overbalancing yourself and you end up kind of falling over yourself. You have to remember that it's similar to in these race cars. It's all about, as everyone who watches knows, or anybody involved in racing. That's a big incident there. That's Brian McCarthy involved in that, along with Jamal Gandor, who's ahead of them. No, it's not Jamal Gandor. It's actually Brian McCarthy and David Prunty were involved in that one. I think maybe it was Jamal, actually. Yes, it is Jamal, because Jamal's missing a rear wing. So a big incident there. The hairpin and the Wall of Champions seem to be really providing most of the action here. But yeah, it's all about the shift of balance, as Jamal's now desperately trying to keep it planted. And without a rear ring, he definitely has to stay away from those sausage curbs, because he will end up like Finlay Melvin.
Jamal's gone back to the Formula Fords. I know I keep mentioning them, but no rear wing for Jamal. And someone has lost the space there. I think it was actually Jamal making an overtake. Don't question the ways of the Gandor. We'll find a way. Oh, maybe we do. Maybe we should question the ways. Maybe we should. Oh no, that's in the wall for Jamal at the exit of the Senna corner and into the pit lane. The engineers will be questioning him anyways.
That's definitely being clipped and put on YouTube later on, I can tell you that much. As Sergei Grabin, 10th in the championship, 11th on track at the moment. He's been a real surprise package, has Sergei, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold off Ronan Doherty, who completes his, just about, no, not quite, Ronan, a little bit, what would I say, enthusiastically there. And I don't think he was expecting for Sean McClements to be joining him down this far in the grid when he started off. But Sean now riding rough along with Ronan there, down in 12th and 13th place, as this man, Jason Smith, has overtaken Dylan McClements for the lead. Not being a good opening race for the Team DDR boys, but for our championship leader, Jason Smith, a really good opportunity now to really push that advantage at the top of the table.
Yes, the only thing is Dylan McClements, despite being young, has a lot of experience here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Last time we came here in RTA, was the the Mustang Americans Cup, and Dylan McClements won all 3 races. Let's have a look at this overtake then. That did lose him the lead, as Jason Smith behind, you can see, championship leader, who has won 2 heats in 2 weeks now, I believe. And he's going to go for the outside or the inside. It's got to be a move on the outside. Dylan didn't fight it too hard, to be fair. That's pretty smart racing from Dylan. Knows he'll get a chance in this race if he can keep up the good pace. Jason, though, does have the fastest lap of the race by 1/10 of a second. Wasn't done on the last lap, but is tracking well. Seems like it's going to be a 2-way fight at the top.
Yeah, it does indeed. And Jason, really good opportunity for him. The cynic in me would say that I wonder, as Dylan I know he wouldn't do this, because knowing Dylan, that he would never even cross his mind, but other more cynical racers might attempt a sort of a Michael Schumacher-esque overtake and maybe just affect Jason's chances for some of the other Team DDR boys who are struggling here, but Dylan isn't like that at all. So obviously that won't come into his mind as we look at this battle again, as Ronan Doherty making it very difficult is Sergey Grabin for Ronan Doherty. Sean McClements has got ahead, but Ronan's going to have to go around the outside, and we might be in F4 machinery, but the DRS is coming into effect, as you saw, for that pass in Jason Smith. And with the very long back straight we have here, the Casino Straight at Montreal, toe will be massively a part of it, particularly, Evan, as we move towards the longer feature race.
Yeah, it's similar to Road America, where the slipstream was very much prevalent. This is very close. Oh, that was always going to happen. Ronan Doherty joins the Jamal rear wing loss club as his rear spoiler is bouncing down the circuit. This makes things so much more difficult for the last lap of this race for Ronan Doherty. Collision with Sergey Grabin, you could kind of see it waiting to happen as they went side by side into the chicane. This has not been a good start to the evening for Ronan Doherty, and maybe that lack of practice is going to come to haunt him.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the way this format works as well. A bad start has a knock-on effect, so all of a sudden in race 2 with the grid set from race 1, you're way down the back of that. Very hard to come forward, and then, okay, you might make it into the top 8, and you might be able to start towards the front for the final race, but there's no guarantee of that happening either. You still have to get around a lot of the messing that inevitably goes on further back down the field with drivers who aren't necessarily as consistent as those up the front. So Ronan, we talked about drop races. This could potentially be Ronan's, which means he can't afford to miss anything from here on in, as we look at the two Swift Cooper boys having a bit of a go at each other. Miles Ragg trying to go down the inside of Luke Cooper, who holds the outside in my favorite number, my lucky number 3. Luke, that is my racing number. Well, it's not my racing number, but it's the racing number that I decide to use. Like Luke can use it, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not claiming ownership of it. I'm just anyway. Jason Smith still leading Dylan McClements here, and last lap now. So Dylan's just holding out, because if he can keep this sort of gap heading into the final straight, he can just let aerodynamics do the rest for him.
Yeah, exactly. Jason is usually a bit more crafty than that, though. I think he's going to have something up his sleeve here on the last lap. Heading in towards turn number 6 and 7, the left and then the right hander onto one of what would be 2 or 3 DRS zones in Formula 1. But of course, we don't have DRS in these F4 cars. We just have 170 horsepower and a lot of prey down the straights. Dylan a little bit further back here, probably wants to close up a little bit in towards the final hairpin, but we've seen Jason have a couple of slides and a couple of slow exits, so anything is possible. You can see the slipstream really working here as the gap is closing down. It's all about timing your exit. Slow in, fast out of this hairpin, and you will get the chance. Dylan McClements tucked into the slipstream. Jason Smith floors it out of the exit. This is a good exit for McClements. Smith mightn't have enough here as they come flying in towards the chicane. The gap is closing, about 2 car lengths now. Dylan McClements, is he going to have enough here? Jason weaves to the right-hand side, weaves back to the left. I don't think there's going to be enough in this for Dylan McClements. I think Jason Smith might be able to hold on. Dylan's going to have to get very brave into the chicane. Brakes very early. Who's going to get the better exit? Avoid that wall of champions to the right-hand side. Both of these champions, of course, here in RTA. Dylan McClements has to run towards the start-finish line, but it's not going to be enough. And Jason Smith is going to win heat number 1 here. The slipstream doesn't pay its dividends, and Dylan McClements will have to settle for second.
Yeah, grandstand finish from these two. Dylan crossing the line. His brother Sean went back into the pit, so another poor result for the DDR boys overall. Dylan McClements flying the flag a little bit, but Ronan Doherty coming in 10th position. Of course, up 14 places, but could have been more if not for that incident involving Sergey Grabin, who's on screen now in the slow and confused number 5 car in a drag race at the moment between a whole load of different cars. Brian McCarthy's in there, as is David Prunty, and Sergey just about gets in ahead of Prunty, then Cooper, then Upson, as we see some of the stragglers in the back. Finlay Melvin, of course, caught up in that instant earlier on. And Evan, for an opening race, it has been full of incident.
Not a bad opening heat, was it? Sean was involved in it. Sean McClements, was involved in an incident with Luke Cooper on the last lap. That's why he went dropping down the order again. Here it is, right in queue. McClements, and that is, or is that Miles Ragg? It's Cooper or Ragg?
It's Cooper. Ooh. It's the number 3.
Ooh. That is the kind of thing you'd pull off, maybe, Kevin? No?
Yeah, definitely. That looks very familiar to me, I have to say. Both of those just getting tangled up, and unfortunately, as Kevin Joyce is the last car to cross the line on track, but not the last in the standings. The first corner, but last across the line, number 16. Yeah, it is something that I would do, but thankfully I'm not on stream, so I can just sit back and watch other people do it instead, which is great for me. Jason Smith finishing top, but some really big movers, including Miles Ragg and Ronan Doherty, both up 14 places over the course of the race.
Yeah, not sure how Road would gain 2 positions without a rear wing. That's quite impressive, but it is Jason Smith, your heat winner, ahead of Dylan McClements and Rory O'Shea. Then it is Brandon McCaughan in fourth, Jason Cooper fifth, Theo Lestrange in sixth, Peter McCann, who looked very solid in that heat, in seventh. Then it is Conor Melia, Miles Ragg, Ronan Doherty, David Prunty, Luke Cooper, Phil Upson, Finley Melvin, Ken Doyle, Simon Hutchings, Brian McCarthy, Sergey Grabun, Dermot Toomey, and then Kevin Joyce. And behind Kevin, of course, we had a couple of non-finishers. Sean McClements, Joshua Henry, Jamal Gandor, and Dara Halley down in 24th. So a very interesting opening heat. I think heat 2 is going to be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a superb one. Thanks to everyone on the YouTube for getting in touch as we head into this second race. I'll call that out in a second.
Here we go then, 5 lights on once again in Montreal, and we go racing for the second time in Canada. Great start Dylan McClements, great start Rory O'Shea. Rory known for his race starts of course in single-seaters here in RTA, but Smith leads comfortably in towards the first corner. It's only a 159 metre run to the apex of that from pole position, so an easy one to defend. McCann loses a spot to Conor Melia. There's 5 spots already gained for Kevin Joyce, whose team name is First Corner. I tell you what, live by the name, die by the name for Kevin Joyce. At side by side, David Prunty loses the spot to Simon Hutchings. It's all elbows out through sector 1.
Yeah, David Prunty down 3, Phil Upson down 3, Sean McClements up 3, 5 now. As I say, there's more moving down the bottom. Phil Upson seems to have had an issue. He's gone down the bottom along with Brian McCarthy. So, unfortunate for the Flat Earthers global car. But certainly finding out that the world indeed isn't flat and actually bumped. And those bumps can occasionally affect your race. Sean McClements up 5 places up to 16th position already. Ronan Doherty's up 1 to P9. Certainly in with an outside shout of, not an outside shout, a very real shout of finishing in the top 8. But for Jason Smith, ahead of Dylan McClements with the other championship leaders down the road, great opportunity for him to make some serious inroads in this championship.
Yeah, great start for Dara Halley as well, up 6 positions. He is only an 18th, but of course started from the very bottom of the field. Phillipson, your big loser on that opening lap in the Flat Earthers Global car, so I'm sure someone could make a joke there that he's fallen off the face of the earth in this race or something like that. But that is a disappointing start for Phil Upson. You can see pulling out a line, that is Sean McClements looking to try get past Kevin Joyce. This is going to be a clean enough move into the first corner. I don't think actually, is it? Did I speak too soon? He's gone for them both. He's gone for Prunty as well. Not able to get it on the apex of 1. We'll try around the outside through turn number 2. Kevin Joyce just let Sean McClements through. Knows that he's in a different race to the top 5 in the championship runner. So does David Prunty. Just lets him through. A little bit wide for Sean. Recovers okay and avoids that outside wall. Just look at all the marks on that outside wall already, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm not surprised though. It's really tricky, and you can see these guys again like sliding out as Finley Melvin goes for moving the background. I think he's made that one mistake, but Kevin Joyce is involved in an instant with Dermot Toomey. Both of those off track, and unfortunately, both Dermot reverses.
Ooh.
That's not really the way to do that. As the trend of backwinds falling off continues. Dylan McClements now being put under some real pressure by Rory O'Shea as a move by Theo Lestrange down the inside to take 5th place on Jason Cooper. That's superb work as Conor Melia goes wide there. And that invites Ronan Doherty to have a little bit of a nibble. Ronan now into 8th position, so he's in that top 8 for the reverse grid for the feature race, but he needs to keep pushing up because there still are chances there available for him. Now, a battle between Theo Lestrange and Jason Cooper continues. Cooper's on the outside going into the Wall of Champions, and we saw an accident here last heat between Sergey Grabin and Ronan Doherty, but both of those, Theo allowing Jason to have the position back as it's as you were between those two. Dylan McClements still keeping Jason Smith very honest here, but as I was talking there, Rory O'Shea, we talked about his racecraft in the last round, his ability to, even though he mightn't necessarily be quickest in qualifying, he does make places over the course of the races. And Rory starting in third, still in third position in the 81 High Prix, but could very well find himself, if Jason and Dylan start battling, in a position to win this race.
Wow, I wasn't the first one to say hi pre tonight. That's a change. Rory O'Shea has the fast lap of the race as well, so he is running excellent so far in heat number 2. Trying to build a nice gap over Brandon McCaughan as well in 4th. So doing a stellar job. It seems like they're trying to make it a 3-horse race similar to what we had in Heat 1 in Road Atlanta last week. But of course, then it all opened up in Heat 2. I think we had a 5-horse race, and then in Heat 3, we had the Grand National. It was an unbelievable fight until, of course, they all crashed into each other. But that is a different story. Miles Ragg, one of the big gainers so far this evening, not necessarily in this heat, but had a great heat number 1, is on the tail of Peter McCann in the VRA racing machine. So it is the Formula 4 driver for Swift Cooper against one of the long runners here in RTA. This could be a tasty battle. And of course, Finlay Melvin. When you see Finlay behind you, it's almost like Jaws. You know there'll be an attack coming at some point. Here comes Miles Ragg, though. He's going to launch the first attack in towards the chicane. And is this going to be a fairly clean move? Seems to have nailed the braking, and that's a nice move indeed from Miles Ragg. McCann not able to get the switch back. And Finlay Melvin, there we go. Now he's starting to fight. And look, he's going for the grass here as there's a spinner in the background. Look at Finlay Melvin trying to make it free wide for the second time tonight. That was Luke Cooper, who had a bit of a problem. There's the contact. Round goes Melvin. Hits McCann. The boat has sunk.
Yeah, I was gonna say I liked the Jaws analogy. I was gonna say like a Trump press conference. You know he's going to attack at some stage. You're just not entirely sure whether it's actually going to come off or not. So it's
it was a terrible overtake.
It was it was the worst overtakes. The disrespect you have coming here, making those overtakes at my track.
This is a brilliant racetrack, fantastic track, fantastic facility. But I'm going to put a tariff on it.
Let's go back to this incident. I'm not sure if Brandon McCaughan's caught up in an incident, but he actually is. He's out at the moment, so let's see what happened here. 69 car, Gordon Ride, and as you saw that wall we talked about, he ended up getting caught up in it, and once again, a rear wing is sacrificed in the good name of RTA. There's going to be some serious souvenirs out of this race for those attending virtually.
Absolutely, you can pick yourself up part of a damaged Formula 4 car, Formula 4 car. What is my obsession with Formula 4? It's Formula 4 car. We are in the RTA Virtual Motorsport F4 Championship, folks. As much as I might mention the other series. Oh, and there's one of them upside down. That's Simon Hutchings, who's getting a lot of blood rushing to his head on the exit of turn number 10. Let's see what happened here then. He is in a battle. That's Dara Halley just behind, I think. Hutchings dives down the inside.
Oh, that's been nasty. That is indeed 4 to the floor. I think it's fair to say. To tidy.
That's gravity, Phillipson.
Yeah, tidy AF. I think he means tidy as floor. But unfortunately, yeah, it was just one of the. It's just one of the ways that accident kind of those are arrived on scene. Unfortunately. But for the front runners, still really this train of 3 is really pulling away from the rest of the pack. Rory O'Shea now, there's a 2.5 second gap between he and Jason Cooper. Cooper could find himself in a battle with Hugh Lestrange later on as we pass just about the halfway stage of this second heat. And yeah, plenty of incident at the back, but for these front runners, Evan, it's a tricky one. For Dylan, really, of all of these 3, is the one that really wants to push the tempo here, because he's the one that needs to really try and put a shot in the arm of this championship.
Yes, and Dylan McClemens wants to win a heat as well around a track that he is very, very good at. Hasn't won a heat this season, although winning single races has never historically been the manifesto for Dylan McClemens. It's always been consistency. And that's what won him his first championship last season. He only has 5 wins across the last 3 seasons. When you put that compared to his teammates, I think Ronan Darty had 12 in Formula V's alone. But Dylan McClemens still likes the taste of a bit of victory champagne, even if he's not allowed to drink it yet. Trying to dive down the inside of Jason Smith in towards the first corner. No go there. Seems like he is just waiting for a similar attack like heat number 1, Kevin, where he wants that slipstream run on the last lap.
Yeah, I'm sure he does, and it's just a case of being as patient, which Dylan has no problem doing. Just to bear in mind that I know some of the McClemens do watch this stream, and no, we're not accusing you of giving Dylan a taste of victory champagne, or at least I imagine it would be the kind of fizzy apple juice sort of champagne that you get at communions and confirmations and the like. But anyway, Dylan, only 0.2 of a second off Jason. It's hard to know, really, even if he gets within striking range, is it actually worth it to try and move on the 26 car, given the fact that this toe is so strong down the back end of this track? Ronan Darty now in sixth at the moment. He's 1.3 seconds off Theo Lestrange, but expect that to fall. He certainly has the pace. The 137.4 plays a 137.5, so he is inching closer to the number 13 car. That won't help him though. Getting very, very wide, a bit late in the breaks there is Ronan. Finds himself off in a little bit of a no man's land as we head back to the front with Jason Smith. And again, that toe on that F4 car, of all of these cars that are resplendent with their wings, which is more to be said for a lot of the other vehicles that have been involved tonight. Just having a look up and down to see if there's any other notes. Conor Melia, actually, you literally read my mind, Ronan, because I was just about to say Conor Melia is not that far off Ronan Darty, and of course, very much battling, very much still has outside championship ambitions, 56 car. So he's in 7th position at the moment, but that won't be quite enough for him to try and push towards the front. So pressure is mounting now, Evan, as we're past the halfway stage of the season. And once we finish tonight, you only have 3 rounds left. So pressure really is on to try and get some results.
I'm not sure if he's changed his livery recently or I've just been oblivious, but that is a cracking scheme on Conor Melia's F4 car, I have to say. I think it could be an old retro Formula 1 scheme or something of the sorts, but a really good effort there by him. Yeah, maybe a Renault or something. Someone with more intelligence than me will probably tell us in the stream chat, but really nice scheme. He has, I don't want to say gone under our radar because we've kind of given him his credit where it's been due the last couple of weeks. But Conor has always been in there or thereabouts. Has 10 top 10 finishes in 12 heats so far this season and is on course for another one here tonight. But really impressive stuff by Conor. He's pushing Ronan now. That mistake for the hairpin on the last lap for Ronan Darty certainly didn't help things because that allowed Conor to get within his own slipstream. Seems like this is going to be between Jason Smith and Dylan McClemens once again. Rory O'Shea, pardon me, sorry folks, just lagging behind that little bit.
Yeah, just a small bit. It reminds me, the Conor Melia one reminds me of the old kind of Williams one that had Martini on the front. I'm trying to remember what year it was, but
Tyrrell.
It was definitely...
It's a Tyrrell.
It's a Tyrrell livery.
Johnny Hollywood corrected me there. It is a Tyrrell scheme that he's in.
Fair play to Johnny. It still does remind me more. It just personally, it just reminds me of kind of like a Williams, when kind of like the Valtteri Bottas era of Williams. That's kind of what it brings to mind. But then I wouldn't have as photographic a memory of F1 liveries as some of the much more learned of those watching the stream.
Can I tell
you,
someone who does is Kevin Joyce, because he could probably name every single sponsor on that car. You should try it out some night, Kevin. He is, and Rally I'm hearing from Ronan Hederman as well. There's an unbelievable bag of knowledge there, and something that we need to exploit the odd time maybe on Gantry TV.
Yeah, it's a pity he's racing. Maybe we could try and ask him, like during a practice session, get him in stream in the commentator's box and rattle off 10 trivia questions while he does a lap around one of the tracks that we do.
Good content idea.
Yeah, that would thanks. There you go. Now they don't pay me the big bucks for nothing. Or I don't pay myself the big bucks for nothing, technically. Jason Smith still holding a 3/10 advantage here. Rory O'Shea very close. And Jason Cooper way off the pace. The car that you see in the background is actually Simon Hutchings, who is very much not involved in either this lead or indeed the championship lead. So he is kind of to be not forgotten about, poor old Simon over there in Wales, but certainly as terms of this championship, not to be included for the championship battle. Now, this is something that could have an impact in the championship battle. As Sean McClemens tries to defend from Miles Rag, he just squeezes Rag there over to the outside curb. And unfortunately for the 21 car, he is maybe legally old enough to drink, but not quite in position to.
Front still, it just seems like it's never changing at this point. Dylan McClemens, though, is almost pushing Jason through the corner there. Valkov very close. Oh, there's someone around behind. I think it could just be a lapped car, actually, because we don't see it yet. anyone tumbling down the timing order is just a lap car. So I think it was Simon Hutchings. I think Ronan told me in my ear. Yep, it is Simon Hutchings who spun round. So disappointing there for Simon. I think he's still recovering from his little bit of an upside down expedition. Dylan McClements really pushing Jason Smith close in towards one of 3 chicanes on this circuit. And it just seems like he's waiting to attack. Needs to learn from the last race. That has to be probably within 2/10 of a second to make it work on the last lap.
Yeah, and it's about that exit as well on this hairpin. I don't think this will be the last time we get around here. I think there will be one
We'll
more
get
lap
one more.
left in this race at Montreal. So hopefully we'll get an opportunity to see whether Dylan comes closer, because where he is at the moment isn't quite close enough. And Rory O'Shea would be thinking to himself that he could get himself involved in the action here, the 81 car. Let's see if he makes a move on Dylan here, because we go into the penultimate lap and it is the time to do so. He manages to close up quickly, but not quite close enough to make the move stick. As Dylan, did he just clip the edge of the wall there on his back right tire? Maybe not enough to actually inflict any real damage, but certainly these 3 guys keeping each other honest as we head into the final lap.
Yeah, they are. I think Dylan has got okay. We might have seen an immediate loss of time if he had to hit the wall fairly heavily there. But this is going to be a close one. Rory O'Shea is waiting to pick up the scraps. Doesn't seem like he's the pace to attack the top 2, but if something goes wrong, he is waiting there. Maybe not in the way Finley Melvin was earlier, where we kind of all knew he was going to attack at some point. Rory just waiting to pick up the pieces. There's Ken Doyle and Sergey Grabun who are fighting, and that is Ken in the Ling Motorsport car. So that's a team name I don't think we've mentioned this season, in the nice green livery. But gap up the front has gone to 5/10 of a second here in the last lap, and it seems like Jason Smith has turned on the afterburners, and Dylan McClements, as it stands, won't stand a chance going down the back straight.
Well, he certainly startled something in your house anyway, Evan. You might need to check that out. But Rory
Yeah, I'd love
O'Shea
it.
putting pressure on Dylan McClements. But yeah, I think Dylan's too far off now to mount a challenge. And actually, as you said, coming under attack now from Wexford's Rory O'Shea in the 81 High Prix car. He's going to try and make an attempt here as we look at the Hederman's marionette wire. I still don't know what that reference is, and I still don't think I want to know what that reference is. As the 81 car, he's going to, I wonder, will he make a move, Rory? I don't think so. I think he's going to have to hold off. And it's all very pleasant between these 3, Evan. All of them kind of staying where they are as we cross the line here, as Jason Smith once again takes victory here. A 1-2, another double for Smith, as our championship leader further cements his lead at the top of the F4 season. Ronan Doherty finishing in 6th. That will put him in 3rd position for the final race, and crossing the line in 8th position is another DDR driver in the shape of Sean McClements, as Sergey Grabin gets it all
Oh
wrong. And
no.
once again on the final corner, he's involved in an incident. This time, Ken Doyle collecting the Lithuanian, but unfortunately losing out himself a heap of places just before he crosses the line. That's so disappointing. And I know Sergey will be on to apologise as Peter McCann slips through. Disappointing race for Peter McCann. He's finished a good bit down from where he started, down 8 places. But Jason Smith, our race winner, and a double.
Utterly disappointing for Ken Doyle. Jason Smith, your race winner. Just if you are interested, Kevin, that fall actually broke my phone case off the desk, so you know.
Oh.
I didn't realise how loud it was. We see some of those stragglers coming home. This is Phil Upson and Brandon McCaughan in 20th position. It's a day for bad results for some of the front runners. We could see a surprise here in Heat 3. It wouldn't surprise me if we got a little bit of a shock winner.
No, it wouldn't, because it seems to be the sort of race it is. Now, Jason obviously in 8th, but Sean up the front. You're going to have Sean McClements, Conor Melia, and Ronan Doherty as your top 3. That is going to be very, very difficult to pass. So even if you do get past the likes of Dylan and Rory O'Shea, like, even though it's been a frustrating race for a lot of drivers, the top 8 is exceptionally strong for this final feature race. So for Jason Smith, it's going to be a really tough task to try and get back to the front.
It is. He hasn't got a hat trick so far this season, and he's come close on two occasions. He wins Heat 2 ahead of Dylan McClemens. Then it's Rory O'Shea, Jason Cooper, Theo Lestrange, Ronan Doherty, Conor Melia, Sean McClemens, Miles Ragg, Finley Melvin, David Prunty, Kevin Joyce, Luke Cooper, Sergey Grabun, Peter McCann, Ken Doyle, Brian McCarthy, Jamal Gandor, Phil Upson, and Brandon McCaughan. And then just below Brandon was Simon Hutchings, Dara Halley, Joshua Henry, and Dermot Toomey. Let's hear from your two-time race winner then tonight, Jason Smith. Jason, congratulations. It's two wins from two. Um, it seemed to be easy out there, but certainly I can't imagine you'll agree with me.
Yeah, no, it's never easy when you have a car literally in your toe the whole race. It's just about not making mistakes.
And then a big points haul over Ronan Doherty so far tonight. Looking into Heat 3, which is usually a messy one, what's the plan?
Yeah, just like every week, try
As have we lost Jason there potentially? We have lost Jason. I thought it was on my end. Sorry about that, folks. So seems like we have lost Jason. Um, I imagine he was going to say that he'll keep it clean. He won't push too much, and he'll try keep it consistent. Is we might have to move on to second place. Dylan McClemens here, Kevin. Uh, as hello, Dylan. Congratulations on second place. Just not enough on that last lap though to keep up with Jason Smith.
No, I made a mistake the lap before, which I spent most of that last lap trying to catch up to him and try to keep the position from behind me. So it's definitely clean and close racing. So it'll be exciting to see what happens this last race.
Last time, of course, we were here in Montreal. You took all three victories. Is it safe to say you're hungry for one here in Heat 3?
Definitely, but I'm gonna have to keep clean because I don't want to be knocked down again, and also I have two incident points, so I don't want to get a race ban. But definitely have a strong streak here, and hopefully instead of the three wins, I could get three podiums or maybe two podiums and a win.
And then is the approach just to stay out of the walls, keep it clean as usual, or are you going to have to be aggressive like your two teammates were in heat number one and making some clinical passes?
See, I'll definitely have to be aggressive because the slash race has got the top eight's got very strong drivers and they're mostly on the pace. So there will be a two fest, I would like to think. So I think more further up you are, the better.
Dylan, thank you very much for joining us and best of luck in race 3.
All right, thanks.
Have we got Kevin Galvin returning? Don't think we do. So we will hear from Rory O'Shea, though. We've enough time for all three. Rory, P3 there, and you were right close to the top two. Talk us through that one.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted to stick behind the two lads, really. I think they have a little bit more pace than me. Like, I couldn't even keep with them in the first race, so I really had no intention of fighting at all. I was maybe just hoping there was a little incident or something and I maybe gained a position, but I'm happy enough with the third, really.
The reverse top eight race, then, of course, you get to start in front of Jason and Dylan, but as Dylan mentioned, there's a lot of strong drivers in front.
Yeah, just looking through, it might be one of the strongest reverse grid races ever, so there's no guarantee of really gaining any positions. I say you could just as easily go backwards, so I think main thing is just keep the front wing on it and try to get up as high as possible.
And then, in terms of the championship, you're still, of course, well within contention. Has that been in the back of your mind during tonight's action?
Oh yeah, of course, especially after two fairly poor rounds. Definitely at least a chance to make up some ground on Ronan, yeah, who's not had a great day. But and then let's hope I don't let Jason get too far ahead of me as well.
Rory, we're going to let you go get ready for race number 3. Best of luck and all going well. We'll talk to you again later.
Yeah, thanks.
So great to hear from the three lads there. Well, Jason was cut off a little bit, but if his pace is anything to go by, we will be hearing from him again once. We will be hearing from him once again in the podium interviews later.
Yeah, hopefully. I hope you guys can hear me as well.
Yes,
I had a very strange incident there. Maybe myself and Jason both were sabotaged at the same time. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, Jason doesn't really need to do a huge amount of talking because he kind of leaves his talking done on the track, really, doesn't he, lads? Because he's been exceptionally quick and very, very consistent. I know we've talked about his change of attitude, maybe before, so we won't labour the point, but it's been a fantastic season thus far for Jason, and it's great to see him back fighting for titles. But it is Sean McClemens who's going to lead us out for the final race.
Yes, it is, as Rory said there, one of the strongest reverse grid races he thinks of all time. It is Sean McClemens, Conor Melia on the front row. Just get your start right, Sean. Don't jump the start, get a clean getaway, and there could be something in this one for you. Ronan Doherty, Theo Lestrange on the second row. It is a multi-time champion in RTA and a debutant, but certainly one that you don't turn your nose up at. Then it is Jason Cooper and Rory O'Shea on row 3 in 5th and 6th, and it is Dylan McClemens and Jason Smith, your front two from the first two heats. And it's Miles Ragg and Finlay Melvin, David Prunty and Kevin Joyce. And then we have Luke Cooper, Sergey Grabun, Peter McCann, Ken Doyle, Brian McCarthy, Jamal Gandor, Phil Upson, Brandon McCaughan, Simon Hutchings, Dara Halley, Joshua Henry and Dermot Toomey to round out the order. This should be a very entertaining one. If Heat 1 and Heat 2 are anything to go by, we've seen a lot of incidents, but most importantly, a lot of great racing as well. As the lights gonna come on here, it's important to get a good getaway for if you're Sean McClemens, doesn't want a repeat of heat number 1. And for the final time here in Canada, we go racing in Montreal. That is a good getaway from Sean McClemens, and he's clean in towards turn number 1. Almost a 4/10 lead already. Ronan Doherty side by side with Theo Lestrange. Lestrange looking to make an impact here and potentially score a first RTA podium. He's on the inside of Doherty now, heading up towards the next chicane, and Theo Lestrange has got that move done.
Theo has been an absolutely fantastic evening for Theo thus far. Let's really hope that he can stay with it. He's been a great new addition to the grid. Let's see if that 13 car can keep up with these long-standing RTA veterans.
Yes, Ronan Doherty trying the move back down the inside once again. That has actually caught him out, and that's going to allow Rory O'Shea to try and make a move. Jason Cooper down 3 positions from the race start. Utterly disappointing. Dermot Toomey from the back is up 7, so he's your biggest gainer so far. There has been some problems for Finlay Melvin and Miles Ragg, it seems, who have dropped down the order. But it is Sean McClemens, Conor Melia, Theo Lestrange, as there's a little bit of smoke coming out there. Someone must have tapped the wall. Then it is Ronan Doherty, Rory O'Shea, Dylan McClemens, Jason Smith, Jason Cooper. That is your top 8. O'Shea diving down the inside here off Dylan McClemens. Doesn't want to get stuck behind McClemens and Smith once again, it seems. And they're now going to be dicing all the way down towards the chicane.
Yeah, this is going to be a really important moment for Rory O'Shea. He has a huge opportunity here to make up some ground on, particularly as he mentioned earlier, Ronan Doherty. So he's going to go too wide into this corner, but he's not going to have enough. Dylan McClemens has to hold off as well. We do go too wide at the front though, as that's Conor Melia and Rory O'Shea coming together. Sorry, it's not. It's Rory O'Shea coming through. It was Ronan Doherty, I think, coming together with Conor Melia. Melia manages to hold on to 3rd position, but Ronan Doherty again involved, unfortunately, in an incident in the 26 car. And Jason Smith now battling with Doherty, and Doherty managing to hold off the 26 car, who has to stay to fight another day. Let's have a look at that incident if we can, because I must get my identity. I know Conor Melia was involved in it, and I think it was Ronan Doherty. The big accident in the background. That's Ken Doyle and Peter McCann coming together. A huge accident. Once again, Ken Doyle and the 25 car involved in a massive accident. And Peter McCann, very frustrating second race for Peter. And now an even more frustrating final race as the two of them come together on the exit of turn 6, I think it is. Sergey Grabin and Peter McCann here now. So let's have a look. Did Ken Doyle lose it and then Peter went into him? Yes, that's exactly what happened. So actually, Sergey Grabin also involved in that incident. Ken Doyle loses it. Sergey goes into him, and then there's absolutely nowhere for Peter McCann to go as he barrels into Ken in the 25 car. And Ken has to go back to the pits, but Peter will continue on as Rory O'Shea now and Conor Melia continue their festivities heading down to Casino Street.
Yeah, Ken Doyle returning the favour to Sergey Grabin. Was that a little bit of wheel banging between Conor Melia and Rory O'Shea? This is getting very feisty. We saw a couple of risky moves from Ronan Doherty as well, as there's a nudge from Jason Smith. That's going to invoke a little bit of anger in Ronan Doherty, and he's going to be trying to make the move immediately. O'Shea pulls to the inside, serving a slowdown, I think. So O'Shea is going to drop all the way down to the back of this train and losing even more time. He's now stuck behind Luke Cooper, so that's disastrous for Rory O'Shea. Round goes Kevin Joyce. Great collision avoidance from Luke Cooper and Rory O'Shea. Disappointing for Kevin, was running very high.
Yeah, Kevin obviously has massive F1 knowledge, but not really one out of the F1 textbook, I think. We came into that incident late, but Kevin getting that series of corners towards the virage then all kinds of wrong and eventually ends up pointing the wrong way around. As Jason Smith also, speaking of slowdowns, he has to serve one so frustrating. I felt really bad for Rory O'Shea there, kind of launched himself across the inside of the curb and obviously picked up that slowdown. But when you have to do that and see people pass you, it's like being stuck behind a truck in the M50. You just can't get back out to get back into the train. It's so frustrating. Rory O'Shea now all the way down in 8th position. He's the big loser thus far. But look at the standings, and you will see with quite a comfortable gap, Theo Lestrange in 2nd position, very much on for the newcomer to score his first podium in this championship.
Goes to show how crucial that move on the opening lap on Doherty was as well, because if he had got bogged down behind Doherty, he would be in this squabble. Unfortunately, it was internet issues that caused Miles ragged into the pit lane and into the garage to see an end to his evening. Utterly disappointing for Miles, who has had a fabulous evening so far and has had a very good season pace-wise as well, especially for a rookie driver in what is a pretty competitive field. That's a car around in the background. I'm not too sure who it is.
Might be Brian McCarthy.
I think it could be it is Brian McCarthy, yes, who has gone dropping down. Here comes Jason Smith diving down the inside of Conor Melia, and Melia has lost that position. Looks like no, I was going to say looks like Dylan McClemens might have got under him there and tried the inside line in towards the turn number 3 and 4 chicane, but no, not able to do so. A right old tussle this is for the final podium place.
Yeah, that was a fairly robust move from Jason Smith, taking all of the curb and then cutting back across the front of Conor Melia as that battle continues. A surprisingly robust move, given Jason Smith's position thus far. I just can't get over the 13 car Theo Lestrange. I mean, it's been such a superb start to this this evening for him. If he can hold on, he's almost certainly guaranteed himself driver of the day, has Theo Lestrange. Obviously, we know he's quick in the real world karts, but hasn't quite. I mean, he's been one of the better newcomers, I think it's fair to say. Unfortunately, Miles Raga's had his issues as well, as is Josh Henry. But Theo, for a second place finish, and with almost 2 seconds to spare ahead of Ronan. I mean, he still has 14 minutes left, so I would expect to see Ronan start to close the gap on that 13 car. But for Theo, what a great position to find yourself in.
Yeah, and Ronan can close that gap, but the only thing is we've seen Theo Lestrange go toe-to-toe with some of the front runners this season. We saw a great battle between himself and Rory O'Shea in Austria, and Theo came out on top in that one. Ronan is clawing that gap in at a rate of knots, though, and definitely Ronan is up to speed now. Certainly wasn't in qualifying, might not have been in Heat 1 or Heat 2, but he is now, and the Ronan Doherty of, I would say of old, but of last week, has returned, and he is right on the pace. This is Kevin Joyce, who despite his spin still finds himself in 13th behind Simon Hutchings. These two have had an up and down evening, but are still running quite competitively.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the 3-race series. It means that even, one mistake doesn't define your whole evening. You still have a chance to come back in and enjoy battling up for points. Speaking of which, Sean McClemens is 3.2 seconds up the road. So after a false start and a very frustrating opening race, he finds himself top of the pile by quite some distance against Theo Lestrange, who, as we said, is falling into the clutches of Ronan Doherty at an absolute rate of knots. And just behind Ronan is Jason Smith. So Theo will want to get a move on if he wants to try and get a podium in this race.
Now, the only thing is Sean McClemens is not going to be celebrating too early, because he was in a very similar position the last time we were here in that Mustang America's Cup, and a lapped car was the cause of his demise on that day. So it's not going to be a celebration too early for Sean for sure. He's going to keep the head down, keep focused, and try and pick up what would be the maximum points here in heat number 3. It's then Theo Lestrange in second. That gap under 5/10 to Ronan Doherty. That is unbelievable from Ronan. Doesn't even have the fastest lap of the race. That belongs to Jason Smith, who has just set it right now. That's a 1:36.6. So Jason was 0.3 of a second quicker than Ronan on the last lap. They are clawing in this front too, and the two championship competitors mean business here.
Yeah, like if you look at the last lap from Theo, 138, just over 138. Whereas for Jason, it's 136.6. So over the course of future races, Ronan Darty now tries to make that move stick. He goes to the outside, he goes to the inside. Jason Smith follows him through. The two make contact as Jason tries to make his way through, but he's going to have to hold off the pedal as Ronan Darty will hold on to that lead as he goes in towards the hairpin. Will Jason try and move down the inside on Lestrange? No, he doesn't. Sorry, this isn't the hairpin. My apologies. This is the last chicane before we head to the hairpin. That could have been much more untidy as Theo moves across to block the inside line, and Jason, a very late move there from the 13 cars. He desperately tries to hold on to this podium place. Theo Lestrange wants this podium. Jason Smith needs to get past the 13 to keep his champion. Well, I mean, I'll not say keep his championship hopes alive, but certainly try and build on what's been a really good evening for him. Having finished so far ahead of Ronan, he won't want to see the 29 finish ahead of him as he moves to the outside. Now moves to the inside. They're going to be too wide going into. No, we're not, actually. I spoke a little bit too soon. Jason deciding to pull out of that move. A previous Jason we may have seen go for that, Evan, but now the 26 car knows his championship position and knows when to risk it and when not to.
Yeah, a mature approach from Jason Smith. Defense from Theo, certainly on the rougher side, but all fair in my eyes. It's been aggressive, but look, Theo probably knows that Jason has probably done one or two of those moves, and he'll have no issue with it. So Theo just leaning on that side of things. Here's Kevin Joyce going down the inside of Simon Hutchings. This corner, of course, where Kevin had a bit of a spin at earlier, but all safely through this time round. Has lost the position to Simon Hutchings, though. Brandon McCollum up 11 in this race, and I have to say Jeremy Toomey's had a good race as well. He's up 13. Here we go once again. Jason Smith is looking for this move on Theo Lestrange. Lestrange is all elbows out through this sector of the track once again, just like he was in the last lap, braking for the chicane. Has the inside line, does Theo, but this is going to compromise his exit down towards the hairpin. Jason Smith has the outside line through it, might try the up and under, might try the dummy down the inside. This is allowing Dylan McClements to catch up to Jason Smith as well, and Jason knows what pace Dylan has in his back pocket. Lestrange defends into the hairpin. That allows Dylan McClements to dive down the inside, and now Jason Smith has a whole other world of problems, and it is the car behind him. They say defend or attack is the best form of defense. Jason Smith's certainly going to be taking that adage in his hand here. Weaves to the outside on Theo Lestrange. Lestrange defending to the inside. They're pushed to all the way to the right hand side of the circuit. This could get very sketchy going too wide through this final chicane. Lestrange once again leads it, but he is slow through the entry of the corner. Smith is going to be looking for the exit here down towards turn number 1. Ronan Darty is away with this one. 2 seconds up the road. Here comes Jason Smith. He has the inside this time. Didn't have it on the last lap. Jason Smith, who breaks later. I think Lestrange has just broke a little bit later. This is incredible defending from Theo Lestrange. There's a nudge between the two just as we say that, and McClements is able to sneak down the inside. I tell you what, that is brilliant racing.
Yeah, and in the land of ice hockey, that's a hip and shoulder, I think it's fair to say, from Theo Lestrange as Jason and Dylan go side by side. Quite remarkably, both of them surviving in what's a very tight corner. And to be fair to Theo, it's robust defending, but he's absolutely entitled to do so. And he knows that if he opens up the door to Jason, Dylan will follow, then Connor will follow soon behind him. So the more he can hold up Jason Smith, the more Jason Smith will fall back into the clutches of Dylan McClements, and Theo can try and scooch away down the road. And you can see the difference. Like Jason with a 136.6 with the fastest lap, he's down into the 38, stuck behind Theo Lestrange. Lestrange is just parking it on the apex, and really, the number 26 car has nowhere to go. So, very frustrating for Jason. This is an absolute test of his, not just mettle, but also his patience as he goes to go a little bit squirrely on the exit of that corner. That will compromise his exit and will now allow the 88 to have a go.
It was an impressive Dylan McClements' defensive performance against Jordan Kelly that really put him on the radar of everybody in RTA in Brands Hatch a few seasons ago. It seems like Theo Lestrange is looking to have his arrival moment here in Montreal. Jason Smith very squarely out of the exit of the hairpin. Doesn't seem like he's going to be under too much pressure from McClements behind. I think Theo would rather defend from Dylan, so that might be why he's trying to back up Jason into him and just get a bit of a different view as he looks into his wing mirrors next time round. It is still Sean McClements in the race lead by 3.3 seconds. He set a personal best on the last lap, but it was still 0.2 of a second slower than Ronan Darty. But still fairly even between those two. Then it's this squabble that you can see stretching from Theo Lestrange all the way down to Rory O'Shea. Smith tries the inside line once again, cannot find a way. It is a brick wall that he is facing in front.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of a caravan, basically, Theo Lestrange, and Theo Lestrange is the caravan, because you can see the train that's left behind him all beeping. If the F4 had a horn, I can tell you that Jason Smith would be using it. If it had lights, he'd be flashing them. We're not in the saloons anymore, folks. We're in the F4 cars, so maybe a quick hand gesture is all that Jason has to show for himself. As once again, look at this train. Honestly, it is like the M50 coming around the corner there as they go 2 and 3 lanes. Now they have to form into one single train again. But the tow, despite the fact that we do have tow, and you would expect that Theo's losing out, he is weaving down the straight, and he's killed another 5 minutes here as the 13 car. He only needs another 5.5 more to try and hold out. There's a big accident in the background. That's Rory O'Shea and Brandon. No, it's not Brandon McCann. It's Rory O'Shea and Conor Amelia coming together on the entrance into that corner with so many cars in the same place. Rory, I'm not sure what's happening to Rory here now, but Connor's gone into the pits. So a fairly significant accident between those two, and that has a huge ramifications for the championship.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure what happened. Let's have a look at the replay. That was sort of out of nowhere between Rory O'Shea and Conor Amelia. So let's have a look then. We're heading down to the chicane through what is technically turn number 12 on the Casino Straight. And this is, O'Shea's not really near, and oh, he's broke way too late. He has broke way too late and taken out Conor Amelia. There's going to be a penalty for that as well for Rory O'Shea. That's a horrid end to the evening.
Yeah, and it's really shocking into the evening for Wexford O'Shea, and a very disappointing one for himself. He'll be kicking himself, and unfortunately for Conor Amelia, he's the one who's involved in it, and it does have some serious ramifications as Jason Smith continues his battle on Theo Lestrange. And Jason, despite the fact that he knows that the two are out, that won't change his attitude as he tries to go for a move once again round the outside, and he's almost, but not quite. Once again, he's going to stick the foot in the throttle, and now potentially will Jason Smith have enough? Theo is absolutely religiously sticking to that inside line, and that's the thing about this track, particularly this section of corners. It is exceptionally difficult to make an overtake in the final section as Jason's just edging out Theo and banging of wheels as Jason once again loses out, and Theo Lestrange has absolutely zero respect for the title of championship leader. He is fighting tooth and nail, and if he gets this podium, by God, it's one of the best deserved podiums we've seen all season.
And if we do get to speak to Jason Smith after this, I can guarantee you he's going to say he's loving this, because this is exactly what Jason Smith likes, a bit of wheel-to-wheel tussle. You saw Dylan McClemens pull out of the slipstream there before the chicane. He wants no part of this. He just wants the positions and the points. Does not want to be involved in whatever is going on between Theo and between Jason. And it's all going to kick off once again because it's back to the inside line for Theo Lestrange. Smith is trying it for a different corner. He's trying it the long way around the outside. Has to cut across the grass. Has to cut across the curb, and Dylan McClemens is going to get the position here. Jason Cooper might even get the position. Where has Jason Cooper come from in this race? Out of nowhere. They're now down the inside of Jason Smith, and Theo Lestrange is going to have another little bit of breathing room. McClemens and Smith side by side. Oh wow, that's very impressive from Jason Smith to keep it on the outside. Very difficult to do that through that corner. I think we even saw some of the best spin try to do that before around this circuit. That's now Cooper side by side here with Dylan McClemens. I think Theo Lestrange is going to have another bit of breathing room down towards the chicane. He only has to last about 2 more laps here.
Yeah, somebody get this man a can of Lynx because he is sweating buckets. I think it's fair to say. And Theo would have seen that instant with Jason Smith in the background, would have thought to himself, okay, phew, at least I'm going to have a chance, you know, at least the pressure might be off a little bit. Oh, as Jason makes a mistake there, that leaves Dylan back in, and he's gone straight across the track. And now, finally, Jason gets the slowdown. He's going to have to hold off, and he's going to see the others disappear down the road. The 26, our championship leader, now down to 6th position. And in fairness, he may not win the war over the course of the season, but Theo Lestrange has certainly won that battle. Take a bow, number 13. What a way to announce yourself into this series.
Yep, unbelievable performance from Theo Lestrange. Jason Smith, who was hounding him down for lap after lap, has fallen and is almost going to fall here to 7th position, it seems, with Brandon McCaughan right behind him. But Theo's work is not done yet. He has last season's champion behind him now in the form of Dylan McClemens, and Dylan can pull off a worldie if he needs to. 5 tenths, under 5 tenths is the gap. There's then a second back to Jason Cooper, so Dylan doesn't have to worry about the car behind, at least for now. We'll have one more lap after this one, and Sean McClemens is very comfortable at the front. 7.4 seconds the gap now. Ronan Doherty comfortable in second. Other than that, very much undecided.
Yeah, an almost unheard level of gap between first and second places. Jason now under pressure from the other Jason in the form of Cooper, with him holding off Brandon McCaughan, who's done well to come back after earlier incidents. But Theo Lestrange, I think with 3/10 of a second, it's going to take something exceptional from Dylan McClemens. But he did say in the interview before this race that he was expecting to be a bit more aggressive. So Theo Lestrange might find that out. But 7.5 seconds between Sean McClemens and Ronan Doherty, that is unheard levels of a gap at the top in RTA motorsport. So Sean enjoying a very much a rare luxury in being able to enjoy this last lap, as Jason goes for, I wouldn't say a move, but certainly just enough to get inside Brandon McGahan's mirrors, hoping to try and put him off a little bit. And Brandon McGahan now separating the two Jasons. But absolute superb stuff from Theo Lestrange. Thanks to Neville Smith, he says Jason's trouble with in straight line with damaged front wing from contact with Ronan. So Ronan and Jason coming together,
Makes
not
sense.
realizing that. So yeah, that would make sense, because I'm surprised over the course of the last while that Jason hadn't managed to really mount a challenge on Theo Lestrange down the back straight. But that doesn't take away from the number 13 superb battling as the clock ticks into 20 minutes and we await to see what our final placings are going to be, because first is tied up, second is tied up, but as you can see on your screen, third is certainly still open.
Here we go. Dylan McClemens to the outside. He's going to have more straight line speed than Jason Smith. They make contact through the hairpin once again. It's going to be one last run down the main straight. Theo Lestrange has started the weaving. They were like a slinky a few laps ago. Only 2 remains. Okay, this is getting a little bit aggressive, but look, we'll let Theo run with it. Down the straight they go. Sean McClemens comes across the line to win for a 3rd time in 3 weeks. Dylan McClemens, his younger brother, breaks a lot later than Lestrange. Is this going to be the heartbreak for Theo? It's going to be heartbreak for both. Into the wall. It is the ending we did not want, and the thriller has ended in a tragedy for Theo Lestrange and for Dylan McClemens. And after all that, Jason Smith does finish on the podium in 3rd.
That's incredible. Oh, the Jesus. I look at Rory O'Shea having to almost stop before the line. I'm not sure what happened to him either. He's down to 11th place, another slowdown. Oh, what a disastrous end to the race for Theo Lestrange. And I mean, I know Dylan's entitled to go for that move, but you just have to feel so sorry for the 13 car, don't you? Like, he worked so hard to put himself in that position. He had the inside line going into the corner, and we'll see what the stewards will have to say about it. Dylan going around the outside, he is first into the corner, but then he gets a little bit too wide. Did Theo give him enough space? Yeah, there's a lot of questions
there's
to be
gotta be an
answered by the
argument about that
steward.
one.
There will be probably a racing incident, but it's very, very hard. And as Dylan mentioned earlier, and thanks to our producer Ronan, for our broadcast director, I know he just producer, broadcast director Ronan Hederman, for reminding us, Dylan's mentioned that he was on the penalty limit. So if he does pick up another penalty, he could end up having a race ban, which would obviously affect his championship. Was it worth it? Personally, for Theo Lestrange's part, I'm absolutely gutted for him, because he ran a superb race, and that wasn't the fitting way to finish it.
No, it wasn't. Unfortunately, not every story is a fairy tale. And Theo Lestrange is going to finish in 18th position after what was one of the best defensive performances I think we've ever seen in RTA, keeping such quick drivers behind him. Sean McClemens is your race winner, though, and Ronan Doherty in 2nd, Jason Smith in 3rd, and Jason Cooper in 4th. Dylan McClemens in 5th, Brandon McCaughan in 6th, Luke Cooper in 7th, Dermot Toomey in 8th, Kevin Joyce in 9th, followed by Conor Melia in 10th. Rory O'Shea then in 11th, Peter McCann in 12th ahead of David Prunty. Then it is Sergei Grabun, Phil Upson, Simon Hutchings, Jamal Gandor. Then, of course, the unfortunate Theo Lestrange ahead of Ken Doyle and Miles Ragg. It was then Joshua Henry, Finley Melvin, Brian McCarthy and Dara Halley. Let's hear from your race winner then, and I'm not sure he'll be expecting this one, but it is Sean McClements. Sean, congratulations. It is a third RTA win in 3 weeks.
Oh yeah. The sort of the F4 championships now, the cars are suiting me a bit better. I seem to be up around the pace, relatively quickly, I would say. So yeah, happy enough. Hopefully we continue this streak.
You still haven't figured out the race starts though. We saw a jump start in heat number 1. What happened there? Was it just your error, unfortunately?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Of course you don't. Of course you don't.
No, it was just an error for me now, to be honest. It was I don't know. I was just looking at the lights and my finger just sort of came off, and before I even realized I took my finger off, I like had it right back down again. So no, it was just an error for me. I can't really fault anything. I wish I could turn around and say I'm colorblind, but that wasn't really getting me too far because I've been doing this these years now. So I know. So
When you were leading then, a comfortable lead here in Montreal, was there any flashbacks to the last time you had that lead back in the Mustang Cup when a bit of lap traffic got in the way, or were you just confident that you could take the win no matter what?
yeah. Well, whenever I had the first couple of laps, yeah, I had quite a good opening lap. I pulled over a second in the opening lap, and then just sort of steadily pulled more and more time throughout the next couple of laps. So I seen the gap get up to around 4 seconds, and I knew Ronan and Jason and Dylan and the lads were catching. But when I got to that stage, I was like, I think it was maybe 5 seconds at the most. I just sort of said to myself, I'll take it easy. Now, I was kind of scared in case there was going to be a bike marker like last time, but thankfully nothing this time. But no, I just took it nice and easy, and then obviously Ronan was catching me a bit. But in the back of my head, I sort of knew like if it gets to around 2.5 seconds, 2 seconds, I'll just start pushing a wee bit more. Like, but whenever I had the gap, there was no real point in putting myself under any pressure when I didn't need to.
Are you still thinking about the championship, or is it just a week by week basis now?
Well, after round 1 and jump the start, last week I was in again. First, I got a first and a third, and then I think it could have been 11th. I've got a couple of bad rounds here and there, so we'll still stick the head down and try to do as best we can. But with terms of outright winning the championship, I think it could be tough at this stage of the game. Jason's been quite consistent. Each week he's up there in the podium. He got a podium there the night. I think he maybe won the first 2 as well, so he'll be hard to catch. But no, but we'll stick the head down and we'll try our very best to see how we can go looking forward.
Sean, thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations once again.
Cheers, lads.
Now to hear from the second team DDR driver with Kevin, it's Ronan Doherty.
Ronan, congratulations on your second place. And he's gone. And who will be joined by now? Sorry, I've kind of been all over.
Ronan again.
It is Ronan. Ronan, congratulations on your second place. Not to start on a more negative note, but can you explain what happened during qualifying? Very unusual for you not to set a lap.
Oh, I didn't do any practice. I joined this session having never done a lap round here, and I looked at the clock. It said 8 minutes remaining in qualifying, so I was just like, oh, we'll just start from the back for the fun of it. And then yeah, sort of I got taken out in the first race in the first corner, and the second race, I think I came 6th or something. I realised I had good pace. I realised I had like top 4 pace, even though I didn't have the practice. And then the last race was a good little scrap. I got past Theo, and then they were all just Theo was defending a lot, I think. So I think they were all just battling. And then I was catching Sean. I think I pulled in maybe like 2 seconds on Sean. But I think Sean, he must have been eating like spaghetti meatballs in all the braking areas, because I know he can go faster than that. So yeah, and then I spun had a bit of fun. Came second.
Well, I mean, second place is not a bad result given how the evening began, but even all the same, like, you're probably going to have to use this as your drop round, which probably maybe puts pressure on. Were you planning to drop any of the other rounds, or are you going to be here for the rest of the season?
I don't know. I mean, whenever I kind of got taken out last week, it was an unfortunate little incident, and then like before that, I was just sort of in conservation mode. This week, I have other things to focus on, and so I knew I was not going to do any real practice or anything. And starting next week, I'll just be going for wins, just trying to get race wins, not thinking about championship because I'm that far behind, you know. And if a miracle happens, it happens, you know.
Yeah, well, a second place finish isn't a bad one at all. Is there anybody you want to shout out before we say? I never really do this, but I just thought decided since we speak to you so often, is there anybody you do want to give a quick shout out to before we go?
Yeah, just thanks to you guys for the stream, everyone at RTA, and a special shout out to the title sponsor of Team DDR. Anyone looking to get your marionette wires, go to Ronan Hederman. So yeah, Hederman's marionette wires. Thanks for the sponsorship.
I actually don't want to know. I really genuinely don't. So there we
Maybe
leave
after
it.
the stream.
Ronan, thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations on your second place. And indeed, I kind of regret asking you that last question, Sherlock Waham. Thank you so much, Ronan, and look, best of luck next week.
Cheers, lads.
Oh, why did I thought
You
he was going to
really
say
teed
something.
yourself up for that one. You
Yeah,
could
I
ask,
thought he was. Thought he was going to say something else. I really didn't think he was going to take it there. Anyway,
you could ask anyone else that question and they'd probably have a genuine answer, but you asked Ronan Doherty that one.
I know I did leave the door open. All right. Anyway, we're joined now by Jason Smith, a very unlikely third placed winner alongside Evan.
Jason, we have to start talking about that battle with Field Lestrange. Talk us through that one from your perspective.
I wouldn't really call it a battle, really. But, no, it was just every time I was literally side by side going into the corner, he just pushed me wide or make contact with me, and then just kind of just stop it up on the apex. But yeah, he got his karma in the end. But look, yeah, I didn't want to be. It might have looked aggressive, but I wasn't. I was a bit conservative in some of them. They're just trying to score points. But yeah.
Yeah, we noticed you were kind of backing out of some moves that maybe if you weren't in the championship position you would have gone for. You're seeing more of a sinister side to it then. You think Theo is a little bit over the line.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Especially when you're literally 20 kilometers slower in mid corner. You kind of can't really do anything. Just backing up everybody behind, and yeah, just you could see why he had accident at the end. But yeah, I still finished third. Happy, good haul of points.
Yeah, of course, you got cut off earlier with us for some reason, so we'll just go back quickly and talk about the positives of this evening. You still did take another 2 wins tonight. Certainly not the first time this season you've taken 2 heat wins in the one evening, so you're still definitely on a strong run of form.
Oh yeah, no, it was no, I knew I'd go pace going in, and in qualifying, I didn't get a toe, so no, it was just about not making mistakes like usual with Dylan behind you with it. Literally, he's rapid in the last corner where he was he was like gaining 2/10 of me in the last corner, and he was staying there. And when somebody's behind you with three or 4/10 the whole race, it's hard not to crack. But yeah.
Then Ronan Doherty said to us that he's just going to be going for race wins now to try put the pressure on you. Are you going to keep up this conservative approach and just try take this championship home?
Well, I'll definitely be going for wins, but if there's scenario where it's gonna be looking like a accident or anything like that, I keep I keep my brain in my head. You can say but no, I'll definitely going for wins. No, like there, me and Ronan were the race we were having even before Theo. It was savage.
And final question, where has this mature Jason Smith come from?
I don't know. My dad was even saying it to me that I've changed as a driver a little bit. I think it's from the Walter Hayes final. It was when in the Formula Ford in real life. That was just like
You
a
brought it
total
up,
all
not
out
me.
scrap.
You brought it up.
Yeah, no, but that was just like a car battle for the lead. It was just sensational stuff, and I think that's probably why I've changed a little bit. But you might see glimpses of old me coming back. But yeah, you could say there's a new me.
Jason, thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations once again this evening.
Thanks very much, guys.
So great to hear from the podium once again. And Kevin, Jason, not too fond of what we thought was an excellent battle.
Yeah, interesting. I suppose when you're in it, it's different. And we normally see that Jason does love a good scrap, and he's always very gracious about it. So I don't think we could put it down to sour grapes from Jason. I can kind of understand where he's coming from. It was very robust from Theo, but also in the context of, you know, where like it's very unusual for Theo to find himself up where he is. So, you know, he's pushing that little bit harder. I mean, I still have him down as my driver of the day, Theo Lestrange. I think it's been superb in the 3 races. I really think he did deserve a podium for the defensive display he put on. I understand Jason's frustration with it, but all the same, I think the number 13 car put up a really, really good fight. Despite the fact that he knew he was off the pace, it doesn't matter your overall pace if you can't get past it. Like it's not a hot lapping competition. It's a race, and Theo proved that there's racecraft involved in it as well. So he would be my suggestion for a driver of the day. I know Johnny Hollywood said as well in the comments section. I think it's been an all-around great performance from it. I know Jason won't be happy with this pick, but I think Jason can be reasonably pleased with everything else this evening.
Yeah, Theo was phenomenal in Heat 1 and Heat 2 as well. So I'm going to agree with you that Theo Lestrange is driver today, but I just want to agree with a point you made and just add to it. Jason mentioned that Theo was 20 kilometers an hour slower through all the corners, but that's kind of what he had to do. Nowhere in motorsport does it say you have to be quick to win. It just says whoever crosses that line first wins. And that's what Theo Lestrange was trying to do. He did everything within his power to try and get that 3rd place in that motor race. And if that means going slow through some of the corners and holding up the train, well, so be it. It worked. It caused a lot of fights behind. And if it wasn't for one slightly controversial incident at the end with the reigning champion Dylan Clements, he would have got that 3rd place. So I think Theo was well within his rights to do what he did, and I think that it was a really good drive. I agree with you, Kevin. Theo Lestrange driver today.
Yeah, Theo Lestrange driver of the day for the first time in his first season with RTA, and a superb example of, as Evan says, you don't necessarily need to be the quickest to be the best. So yeah, that's it from us this evening. We do have a full calendar, of course. This is 5 rounds done, so we move back across the Atlantic now for our final part of the season. 3 races, 3 weeks, 3 countries, and we start in Silverstone, indeed, the county of Northampton next week at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit before we move to Nürburgring in Germany on the St. Patrick's weekend. The bank holiday, or just after the bank holiday. So some sore heads, I suspect, when we race around the WEC version of the track before we finish up the season for the finale at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, another French-speaking country, so expect a little bit of French to come out again. But again, from us here at Gantry TV, many thanks for joining us. And indeed, have a good week. Enjoy your week. We'll speak to you next week. But I just want to once again leave the final thoughts with the Taft family. I know Evan spoke much better than I did on the Taft family's behalf in terms of what they're going through at the moment. But just the thoughts of us with TJ and indeed all of the family in the passing of Niall Taft, and he's very much in our thoughts. And indeed all his family and friends this week. So thank you very much for joining us, and do raise a glass or have a thought or say a prayer or light a candle or whatever you want to do for the Taft family, and hopefully this week will be as kind to them as I possibly can. And next week we will be back in Silverstone for the latest round of the RTA F4 Championship. But until then, have a good week. Take care. Slug.